All right, so 4.7, staying sharp. This one asks us to write an expression. Remember, an expression does not have an equal sign in it. Stop. The perimeter is when you add up all the sides. So the first thing I do is make sure that all the sides are labeled. So make sure all the sides are labeled. Next thing is, I can't concentrate when you're doing that.
Want me to move?
Yes, please. Yes. And so you need to add up all the x's. So you have 5x here, 3 more is 8, 5 more is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 3 more x's is 16. So I just added up all the x's and got 16. So if you take the 9, 12, 9, and 12 and add those together, 9 plus 12 plus 9 plus 12 gives you 42. There's your expression for the perimeter. All right, number 2 says, write an algebraic expression, again, no equal sign, to represent each phrase. So we're going from English to algebraic. It also says to rewrite the expression more simply if possible. So we might have to write equivalent expressions here. A number, which they want us to use n, so a number plus itself is n plus n, which, remember, there's an invisible 1 here. If you have one n and I have one n, that means we have two n's together. So n plus n is equivalent to 2n. A number times itself. N times n is also known as n squared. So n times n, which is also known as n squared. An expression for a number minus itself is n minus n. There's your expression. I shouldn't be using equal signs. I should be using semicolons. We're full. You'll have to go to another class. This is going to be an interesting recording. For those of you watching at home, I apologize. We're recording this during class and trying hard not to have interruptions. Any number minus itself, like 10 minus 10, 5 minus 5, 20 minus 20, is always equal to 0. N minus n, 5 minus 5, 10 minus 10, it's always equal to 0. A number n divided by itself, n divided by n. Any number divided by itself, n divided by n, 5 divided by 5, 12 divided by 12, is always 1. N divided by n is always 1. All right, the third one has us doing more translations. Nicole's mother says to a friend, if you triple Nicole's age, then add 16, you get her grandmother's Gladys's age. So they're asking us to write an algebraic rule. Well, an algebraic rule does have an equal sign. Does have an equal sign. So we're going to have an equal sign, and we need to translate between this English statement and algebraic. Well, if you triple Nicole's age is English. The algebraic is 3n. Triple Nicole's age is n. Then add 16. Well, that's easy, plus 16. You get. What do you think you get translates into algebraic? Equals, good. And then her grandmother's Gladys age translates into G for her grandmother's age. So there's our rule. 3n plus 16 equals G. If you take Nicole's age, triple it, and add 16, you'll get Gladys's age. So now let's take that, 3n plus 16 equals G. If Gladys is 67, so I'm going to replace the G with 67. Gladys is 67. How old is Nicole? So Nicole is going to have the question mark. And you have to figure out what number, when multiplied by 3, and then add 16, gives you 67. And the answer is 17 years old. 17 times 3 plus 16 gives you 67. For this one, you could have guessed and checked. Start with 20, see if you were too high or too low. That's fine if you did it backwards. Okay, number 5. Caitlin is 62 1/4 inches tall. So I'm going to draw Caitlin. And I'm going to label her Caitlin. She's 62. Now, I don't like to work in fractions. So I'm going to use my calculator to help me translate 1/4 into decimals. If I hit 1 divided by 4 in my calculator, I get 0.25. And those are inches. Now it says Jamie, her older brother Jamie, is 9.5 inches taller than Caitlin. So if I draw him, I have to draw him a little bit taller. Here's Jamie. And he is 9.5, which is 9.5 inches taller. Well, if she's 62.25, and you add 9.5 to her, you're going to get 71.25? 71.75 inches. So Jamie's a little bit taller than her. Caitlin's 62.25. Jamie's 71.75. Now their dad, it says Jamie is 2 1/4 inches shorter. So if Jamie's shorter, let's draw the dad just a little bit bigger. And it says that Jamie is 2 1/4 inches shorter. 2 and 1/4 is 2.25. So I've got to take Jamie's height, add 2.25, and I'll get dad's age, or dad's height, sorry. If I do 71.75 and add 2.25, you get 74 inches. So by drawing a picture, working a little bit backwards, and taking these fractions and turning them into decimals, it was a pretty simple problem. You've got to start somewhere, and starting with a picture is the easiest way to go. All right, last one, guys. Find 2 different fractions whose sum is equal to 1. Okay, so we've got to add 2 fractions together, and the sum is equal to 1. 1 is also equal to like 5/5, which is also equal to 8/8, which is also equal to 10/10. So if I can find 2 fractions that will add up to one of these, then we've got 1. So 2/5 and 3/5 equal 5/5. So those 2 fractions add up to be 1. 1/8 plus 7/8 equals 1 because it equals 8/8. 6/10 plus 4/10 gives you 1 because it actually equals 10/10. What you've got to remember is that 1 is also equal to 8/8, 10/10, 5/5, 12/12, whatever it is. So it's easier to think of these as a fraction like 5/5 sometimes than it is 1. So remember that. All right, little hint for tomorrow's test. You need to know the difference between discrete and continuous data. Remember from those side notes that we took. In discrete data, you use a scatter plot to only use dots. Okay, let me draw that better. You only use dots. These are dots, so you do not connect them. The reason that they're dots is because this is when your input data, which is also your x, can only be whole numbers. For instance, if your input data is number of people, you can't have a half a person, so you have to have whole numbers. Number of people, number of plants or work, number of pencils to buy. We did that one in class. So continuous is when you can actually take those dots and draw a straight line. You can use continuous when your input data can be a decimal. For instance, money. Money can be a decimal. It can be $12.52. It can be time, 3.75 hours. Anything that can be a decimal for your input data, Troy, anything for your input data, if it can be a decimal, is called continuous. So you only use discrete when your input data has to have a whole number. My other suggestions for you to study for your test are to make sure that you study all of your old notes. Make sure that you go over any ones that are wrong. You can rewatch those videos even if you already have. If you didn't do a homework, I suggest you definitely go back and read those. I would look at all of your side notes as well and make sure you study those. Good luck. I'll see you tomorrow.